Despite its many major flaws, YouTube is one of my favorite media platforms and takes up an annoyingly large part of my day. And when you have the eldritch abomination known as the algorithm suggesting the same videos over and over, things can get quite boring over time. Sometimes though, videos slip through the cracks that are nothing like you expected. They can be art projects, unsolved mysteries, ARGs, or just random nonsense. One thing is for sure though, they are extraordinary glimpses into our vast collective imagination. So without any delay, sit back, relax, and enjoy a deep dive into YouTube's less explored regions. We are starting strong with a video named How Satan Works by a channel named Nikolaus Mack. The video's description says, a preacher reveals that the characters that stroll into our minds are actually the forces of Satan. Exploring the channel, there's really not a whole lot to dig into. There are some painting reviews, an unboxing video, a short animation, and some more personal vlog-type videos. Nothing too creepy or out of the ordinary, but How Satan Works is particularly interesting because of its disturbing visuals and story. A creepy combination of heavy breathing and a rhythmic drum play in the background, as the preacher details his experience with the occult and how it altered his artistic works and even his reality.
Before I was a Christian. Before I was a Christian. Before I was a Christian. Before I was a Christian, I was into the occult. I remember when I'd write my songs, they would come automatically so often.
The visuals consist of bizarre drawings of people being eaten or imprisoned, black and white close-ups of dental examinations, goats, and children with various deformities. The preacher speaks in a muffled and distorted tone, but thankfully there are captions to help us understand what he's saying. His story goes like this. Before I was a Christian, I was into the occult, and I remember when I'd write my songs, they would come automatically so often. Many of you have heard my testimony that I'd opened myself up to the occult powers. And I had a wizard in my room that was given to me by my next door neighbor, about 2.5 feet high or so. And I remember closing my eyes, visualizing, get in touch with I guess that inner eye, My music changed radically. I started playing very Eastern sound. My lyrics became very occult based. Instead of Little Miss Muffet, it was Little Miss Medium. Can you awaken the dead masters in your sleep? And I'm not even knowing what a lot of this stuff is. I'm being initiated into the occult through my own lyrics. And I remember mowing the lawn one day when I was 17 years old, and all of a sudden a character strolled into my mind. His name was Tiki Tom the Indian Boy. I couldn't wait, man. I had to go into my house and write down this song. And before I knew it, man, a whole song came out of me, like that. It was about Tiki Tom the Indian Boy. He was stabbing to stay afloat in society's leaky boat. Boom, 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 I wrote it, boom, then I started it. And I still don't understand what it meant as much as I do now. That's how Satan works. That's how Satan works. Whether it's the woman who's buying the stairway to heaven, thinks all that glitters is gold, or it's Harry Potter, or it's Tiki Tom, Satan gives characters to people, and they dazzle the world with them. And the people go, wow, how artistic. And they start getting away from the truth. And they drift further and further away from God, and more into Satan's lies. Very heavy religious themes here, although I'm not quite sure what the images are supposed to represent. There is also a random photo of a man shown in the middle of the video. His name was Serge Voronov, and he was a French surgeon who gained fame for his practice of xenotransplantation. He transplanted monkey testicle tissues onto the testicles of men as an anti-aging therapy while working in France in the 1920s. He became wealthy through his practices, but his theories were controversial and often ridiculed by medical professionals. He was famously known as the Monkey Gland Man, and most of his works were later proven false. A pretty random reference for such a video, but still, we all learned something new here. Interestingly, there's also a link to the creator's website at the end of the video, named NickArt. Unfortunately, the website is no longer up, but thankfully it has been archived by the Wayback Machine. Checking out the latest capture, we find a standard WordPress website with a very lengthy article describing the creator's ruminations about the nature of humor and how it's perceived nowadays. There are plenty more humorous articles and short stories as well if you're into that sort of thing. Your mileage may vary. Searching even deeper, I found various paintings and artist profiles as well, but they all seem defunct nowadays. Still, his stories are interesting in an old school kind of way, and his paintings weirdly captivating. Overall, an underappreciated artist. Next up, we have a video titled Palace of Mirrors by a channel I won't even bother pronouncing its name, and this one is something alright. It's an animation depicting the adventures of conjoined twins, from their birth to their untimely demise. The video begins with a moment of their conception, as we see them grow from embryos to fully grown babies. The nurse and the father seem delighted, with the nurse thinking of a circus as he looks at them, and the father thinking of money as he embraces them. Not very nice people, are they? Thankfully, we don't see them again, instead focusing on the twins themselves. They engage in all sorts of fun activities, like frolicking in the fields, exploring their body, playing in the snow, and getting drunk. Things take a bad turn when the twins find a room with a chandelier on the ceiling sprouting red threads. One of them transforms into a noose, and despite the second brother's efforts, he cannot prevent the inevitable. The video ends with the first brother's head turning into a tombstone and the second brother crying inconsolably about his loss. Well, that was a dark experience, but things get even more interesting when we delve deeper into the rest of the channel's content. There's not much here, but it's all equally disturbing. Oni is a short video of a war general with a child on his lap, gently caressing her as the camera moves closer. As the creepy music becomes more and more intense, the general's head explodes and the video ends with people screaming in the background. Bloody Bread is a 10-second long stop-motion animation about bread getting sliced and walking off-screen bleeding. There are also a few animation tests of some hand-drawn creatures, straight out of a horror video game. The rest of the videos are 2D animations about babies doing random stuff or conjoined twins. So what is all this about? Well, taking the description of the videos, there is a name mentioned as the creator of all these works, Odd Boronat. Googling that name, I found an interesting Flickr profile full of disturbing sketches, paintings, and photos. Unfortunately, the art portfolio and the channel have been inactive for many years now, which is a shame because Odd Boronat seemed like a pretty prolific and talented artist. Sure, their fixation with babies was a bit weird, but their artistic works were detailed and had a unique style to them, while their videos managed to be unnerving and interesting at the same time. Check them out sometime, they're definitely worth it. After many years of investigations and aimless hunting, we finally got him. We got Bigfoot. Here he is, showcased in a video simply titled Bergen. Okay, I'm obviously joking here, but regardless, what the hell is that thing? Is it an art exhibit? Is it a very large hairy ape or a caveman? Maybe it is Bigfoot after all. I had to find out for myself. The channel that uploaded the video wouldn't be of much help, since it was just a random channel re-uploading random memes, shitposts, and spooky stuff. However, there was some text at the beginning of the video. Photo courtesy of friendsofbigfoot.org. Finally, a useful lead. Of course, the site has long been out of commission, but once again the Wayback Machine comes to the rescue. Unsurprisingly, it was a website dedicated to researching and documenting everything that is related to Bigfoot. From news to articles to images and videos, you could pretty much find anything you want here. There were even forums available for members of the site to discuss their findings, and you could contact the managing editor for any questions you would have. But all that is gone now, like tears in the rain. Despite the website's decrepit state, I still wanted to find that picture, if only for peace of mind. After scouring through the site's many pages, I found an interesting article titled Yeti de Bourganeuf with photographs. And what do you know, the infamous picture is front and center. Here's an excerpt from the article. Whether or not these images are actual and genuine photographs of a wild man, the scenario sounds familiar. In fact, I have probably hypothesized what would happen if the body that science demands actually showed up one day. The scenario would play out with series of skeptical dismissals, no matter how thin, and eventually the body would disappear, along with those involved in its revelation. I am told that even the newspaper photographer, who was asked for the negatives from her photos that were published, stated that the negatives had been given away. These grainy photos, which are apparently all that presently remain, result because they were scanned from published images appearing in a French magazine. The present whereabouts of the body is unknown. However, my belief is that even with a body, official science will not be satisfied with anything unless and until science becomes inclined to investigate who or what these obviously human-like beings are. As these images reveal, they so closely resemble human beings that this fact alone may be why so much cover-up and suppression has apparently occurred. How could the powers that be ever explain their callous treatment and lack of concern for the destruction of the natural habitat of these beings? To acknowledge these creatures' existence would possibly amount to a management problem exceeding that which our country faced as we crossed this continent, encroaching upon and exterminating the other native inhabitants of North America. Until that day when the Sasquatch, by any name which one prefers to call him, has been officially recognized and protected, it is my hope to influence those who would want the glory of bringing the body against such an idea, because it and they will, by my estimation, find themselves in a state of non-accidental obscurity. My guess is that science has been presented with a body on a number of occasions, and we have very little to show for it, except possibly a large storage bill at the Smithsonian. The article's writer seemed very convincing and passionate, but still the skeptic in me wasn't satisfied. So once again I did some more digging and found a few more articles describing a completely different story. Here's an excerpt from one of them. This photo of a dead Bigfoot has been around for a long time. It is often debated as to if it is real or not. I noticed today that the pictures of a figure known as Yeti de Bourganeuf is making the rounds again. There is an amazing backstory that follows this display of a dead Bigfoot around, but sadly it is all made up and totally untrue. The photos are known as the Yeti de Bourganeuf, and the figure was created to honor Bernard Heuvelmans and his dealing with a Minnesota Iceman. The sculpture was made by artist Emmanuel Castells Janssen, and it was over 8 feet long and it used horsetail hair for the hair. In the July-August edition of the journal Cryptozoologia, the sculptor, Janssen, who created the supposed corpse, came forward admitting everything and explaining how he done it. In fact, it was a soft foam sculpture on which horsetail hair was stuck. The eyes were simply purchased by a specialized supplier of taxidermy. Well, that settles it, I guess. Even though the whole thing proved to be a hoax, it was still a fascinating little deep dive into a rabbit hole of old websites and articles, something so hard to do nowadays with the way the internet is structured and funneled through just a bunch of major websites. And it all happened because of a random little YouTube video. Is there a lesson to be learned from all this? Sure, why not? We must do our research before reaching any conclusion and try our best to explore and preserve the internet of old. And that's pretty much it from me. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stuff. You know how it goes. You can also support me on Patreon or become a channel member for early access to my videos and other perks. Have a great day, and until next time, take care and have fun.